Good evening and thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News at 5. I'm Whitney Ward. Mark is off tonight. We begin now with the developing news out of the Middle East. Israel is at war with Hamas. Here is what we know at this hour. Hundreds of Israelis are still missing after many were taken hostage over the weekend. Hamas is threatening to start executing them now. Israel has sealed off Gaza, not even allowing food or water to come into the area. The death toll right now in Israel has climbed to at least 900, with at least 11 of those confirmed to be Americans after this weekend's violent incursion by Hamas militants. Israel ordered a complete siege of the Gaza Strip. The U.S. State Department now believes that Americans may be also among the hostages. America's most advanced aircraft carrier is now moving toward the region as Israel confronts shock and grief. Even as the death toll in Gaza also rises into the hundreds, Hamas continues firing rockets over the border, and Israel called up hundreds of thousands of reservists, preparing for what they say is the next stage of war. And the devastation in Israel is not lost on people living right here in Spokane. People in the Jewish community say they have been in mourning all weekend. KREM 2's Janelle Finch is joining us in the studio now after discussing this Middle Eastern conflict with a local rabbi. Janelle?
Whitney, Rabbi Dr. Elizabeth Goldstein tells me the Jewish community at Gonzaga is a small one. But now, more than ever, that community is leaning on one another as they watch attacks on their people half a world away. Rabbi Dr. Elizabeth Goldstein says every Jewish person has a connection to Israel, even those who have never been.
We all have our own experiences of how Israel plays a part in our sort of spiritual and religious identity.
That's what makes the Hamas attack on Israel and Jewish people so personal. Goldstein says the unnecessary terror leads to more pain than progress.
None of this is going to bring anybody closer to a peace. It's only going to just create more war and more sadness. And there's just going to be a lot of loss of Jewish and Arab life because of this. And it's just tragic.
She says conflict in the Middle East isn't new. She explains there's history between Hamas and Jewish people, and Hamas and Palestinians can't be assumed to share ideals.
There's different ways of talking about Palestinians, and some people say the word Palestine and they mean all of where Israel is today, and that's how Hamas thinks about it. So they just think that the whole land should be theirs, and so they can just do whatever they want.
Still, she hopes injustice won't prevail. With all the sadness she feels, she says she also feels resilient and strong.
There's going to be Jews in Israel. I think it's not going to deter that, and so if that's the point, it's not going to work.
She says she's praying for fewer lives to be lost as violence continues. Rabbi Goldstein says the attack came at a time when Jewish holy days were coming to an end. She says what should have been a weekend of celebration quickly turned into a weekend of mourning. In the studio, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
Janelle, thank you. And at tonight's Spokane City Council meeting, Councilmember Jonathan Bingle says he will bring forward a resolution to support Israel's right to exist and to condemn the violent acts of war by Hamas. Bingle also says the proposed resolution will express its support for residents in Spokane who come from Jewish and Palestinian heritages. In a statement, Bingle said, "I have spoken to Spokanites affected by these acts of aggression." He said, "I've heard of several sleepless nights and fears for the safety of family members and loved ones." The resolution strongly condemns acts of violence and calls for the continued respect for all members of our community, including those of Jewish and Palestinian descent. And be sure to stay tuned for the CBS Evening News after this newscast. Nora O'Donnell will lead team coverage from Tel Aviv tonight. That's coming up at 5:30. Now happening in less than an hour, the Spokane City Council is expected to vote to oppose a proposed sales tax increase. Measure 1 will appear on Spokane County voters' ballots next month. If it is approved, Spokane County residents would then see a sales tax increase of 0.02%. A portion of the money would be used to then build a new community correction center behind the jail. The plan would also close Geiger Correction Center and expand the jail in downtown Spokane. Even if City Council votes to oppose Measure 1, it will still be on the ballot in November. The vote is just to signal City Council's disapproval of the measure. All right, we want to switch gears, talk a little bit of weather, a beautiful, almost summer-like weekend. I hope you had a chance to enjoy it because there is change coming. Let's send it now to our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Legoo.
Well, that change is slowly working its way in as we speak, and right now it sure doesn't feel slow, but it kind of is. We're still at 71 degrees. We have a little more cloud cover than we did, say, yesterday, but look at the wind. Wind's starting to pick up south-southwest at 13 miles per hour, and that marks the changing weather pattern. Look at this. An hour ago, I said, watch Sandpoint. Sandpoint was at 0. This is your graphic of temperature change in the past 24 hours. Spokane, down across the Palouse, we're sitting at about 10 to 15 degrees, or 10 to 12, excuse me. 15 out in parts of the Cascades. Sandpoint dropped, now 4 degrees colder than you were this time yesterday. It's a potent front moving through, and it's not a one and done. It's kind of a 1, 2, 3 punch over the course of the next few days, and that's what drops our temperatures significantly. This first punch does come with a bit of rain. That's moving out into central Washington, still bringing some rain to a region that's been seeing it pretty steadily all summer. That's good news, but as we look forward into the future, we start getting it here. We'll see a couple of scattered showers this evening. Those will grow more widespread tomorrow morning, and eventually we wind up seeing more widespread showers through much of the day tomorrow. Those will start to taper off as we get into the day on Wednesday, but overall, temperatures trend much, much cooler in the days to come. Even as the rain ends on Thursday, we still top out in the 50s.
All right, Jeremy, thank you. The man accused of stealing a WashDOT truck at gunpoint last month was back in court this morning. He pleaded not guilty to armed robbery and assault charges. Officials say Lance Rogers led state troopers on a chase across I-90. The truck finally caught fire after crashing.